So the way that the rest of the evening will sort of work is that we're going to kind of dive into our questions. So I've got a lovely list of questions here, and as I said, we'll work through kind of as many as we can. I'll read them out and invite our second year students to come in and answer those. So just if anybody missed who they were, our second year students are Denise, Amanda, Caroline, and Hara. So they're the four that will be responding to your questions this evening. So without further ado, we shall begin with the first question. So the first question is, you describe the spiritual development and ministry training as a transformative journey. Can you say a little more about this and the kind of transformation I can expect? And I'm going to hand that one over to Hara when you're ready.
Yeah, let's start with a really deep question at the beginning. It's quite a powerful question, really, to answer. I think I have no idea where everyone is coming in from, what their experience is or their background, obviously. So for me, I've come from a place of having done interfaith work for quite a long time and engaged and learned something about different faith traditions, teaching yoga and using sound tools for healing from lots of different religions. So I thought I'd come in with a fair bit of good background knowledge, but actually what I found is that engaging with the course, and particularly the foundations of faith and the regular posts on the website, has taken me into such a deeper engagement with the presence and the practices and the sort of heart and soul of different faith traditions that it's really deepened my own spiritual practice. It's informed me and inspired me. We're encouraged to deepen our own spiritual practice anyway. So one of the amazing books talks about 4 different types of spiritual practice to use on a regular basis, which I've also been doing. And it's just opened up my connection to the divine so profoundly and expanded my awareness of my relationship with what that is for me, and helped me really feel really safe in the universe. And it's given me a sense of this is where I've been heading my whole life, and this has given me a community and a purpose that I didn't even know I was heading towards. And I think there's been a profound change for me in the last 2 years. And I will always be grateful for that, even if I weren't to go on to do ministry work, which I most definitely will.
Thank you, Hara. Yes, Denise, Amanda, Caroline, please feel welcome if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, I can speak. But just very briefly, I would echo a little what Hara has said. I think I was a bit skeptical when I first started the course. But what I have seen is a profound shift within myself, a real deepening of my connection and my faith, and an understanding of what that can do for me in my life. I think as a direct result of this training, my spiritual connection has just, I think before the course, it was my spiritual practice, my spiritual connection was something kind of external to me. It was something that I did, and now it has become just part of every moment of my life, really. I feel that I am connected to spirit, and I feel very led, I suppose, to just bring the divine into the everyday. And that has come out of all of this reflection and appreciation of spirit, I suppose, that comes out of this training course for me. I think it affects us all very differently, but I don't think you can go through this training, not if you're serious about it, and come out the same person that you went in 2 years ago.
Thank you, Caroline. I'd love to know more about how students are building confidence in doing the work they'd like to do after graduation or after ordination. And Denise, I'll invite you in on this question, please.
Thank you, Maddy. This is a huge question for me. Forgive me for reading from what I've printed off, because I'll go off on a tangent otherwise. This course has opened up a spirituality in me that I didn't know that I had. I had previously found meditating nigh on impossible and always felt like I was on the back foot spiritually compared to others. I know now that, like many others, I'm simply different. No less spiritual, just spiritual in a different way, perhaps. My pilgrimage in the summer made this clear for me, when it was like a boom moment, when I realised all the work I'd been doing for almost a year was not in fact wasted on me. I showed gratitude to Mother Nature as my divine by offering seeds for wild birds as I cold water dipped in 5 different beautiful locations along the Fife coast in the east of Scotland. On each dip, I laid out some bird seed and took my crystals into the water with me for cleansing. It was a truly wonderful day. The sun shone from sunrise at 6 a.m, where 2 friends joined me, right through to my last dip mid-afternoon, when the sun still shone full and clear. I felt truly blessed and full of love and gratitude for our wonderful Mother Nature and the gifts that she gives so abundantly with nothing expected in return. This newfound confidence in my own spirituality has aided in my belief that I am worthy of holding sacred space with people from all walks of life, from all faith paths and belief systems, and that I am worthy of the work I do and intend to do once I am ordained as an interfaith minister.
Thank you, Denise. And Hara, I believe you were going to come in and share a little bit on this question as well.
Yeah, just a little thing, well, a brief thing, but not little. I think what gives me confidence to do this work is knowing that it's the connection to the divine and that energy of love and connection to that is present and is working through me and holding the space. So I step out of the way, my ego's out the way, and the confidence comes from it not being an ego place but being a heart and soul place. And for me, that's the real difference, is once we step out of ourselves and into our heart and soul space, we can do anything that's called on us. We can go with the flow because we're in the flow, we're in alignment with the divine, and that's really expanded and deepened for me on this course. And I think once you step into that and out of self, you're fine.
Or how have students balanced the training alongside work, family, and other life commitments? And is there any advice that you can give for managing this? And Amanda, I'm inviting you in for this question.
Thank you, Maddy. So I felt I was very well suited to answer this question because my journey with OneSpirit has been a journey of exactly this question. Just to give you a little background, I'm a mum. I have a young child. He's 4 now. He was 3 when I started the training. And I also am working, and in my first year of training, I was finishing up a postgraduate degree while working and looking after my son. I also got very, very ill unexpectedly in my first year. So I also had to navigate health challenges, both for myself, my husband, and my child. And I also, right before starting the course, had just emigrated back to Scotland after living in Canada for 15 years. And it was a very destabilizing move for us. So I've really run the gamut of work-life balance and trying to balance this course, a weekly commitment to a course, with everything else going on. And I would say, if you have worries about this, in my experience, I received nothing but incredible support from the tutors and from my fellow cohort members. I think in very practical terms, you know, what I had to come to realize after maybe 4 months of the course was that this course was really very unlike any other course I had taken before. And I've taken many different kinds of courses. And this one, it was almost the opposite, where I had to really change my thinking around what a course was and sort of get out of the academic mindset of, this, it's really not a course where, you have to do all the readings, do all the assignments, get it all done on time, finish by the deadlines. You're encouraged to do that, of course. But what I would say is this course has really helped me navigate how to live my life in a spiritual way and feel connected to the divine, to others in my community, how to build community, how to be connected with community, and how to do that in an everyday lived way. And that has been hard, and it has also been incredibly insightful. So I would say that is the work, being able to navigate all those things and still have a spiritual life and have that influence all of those aspects and challenges that you're facing in your life. And I would say also, it's been incredibly positive for me to have 3 hours a week carved out of time just for this, so that I can take time away and just focus on this part of my life. So I would say that has also been incredibly supportive. And just in a really practical way, all the learning content is relatively self-paced. It's all available online on the hub. We call it the hub. So all the reading and everything's there. There's no pressure to read everything. It's there for you to process when you have the time. You can read when you've got the time to do it. Tutors were incredible with extending deadlines for assignments, things like that. I don't think I've handed in a single assignment on time. And I feel fine about it now. At first I felt very guilty, but now I actually feel totally fine because it gave me the time I needed to do it in the way that felt right. And again, that's the work. And I think it teaches this has taught me a lot of self-compassion, self-care, how my own spiritual practice can really support me through all those challenges. And I just have nothing but love for everyone that's helped me through it. And it's been great. So long answer, but yeah, I think if that's your worry, I think as long as you've got the time to do the webinars, you'll be fine.
Of how much time do you give the training each week? And I think, Amanda, you kind of sort of delved into that a little bit, that everybody might give different amounts of time. So Caroline, I'm going to come to you first for this one.
Yeah, thank you. That was a beautiful answer, Amanda. That was so lovely. So I don't really know how I'm going to follow it up, actually. I think it varies for everybody, how much time. As Amanda said, there's really no pressure. I mean, the one thing that we are expected to do is attend and engage with the webinars, which is 3 hours. And then there's a hub post that goes up on a Thursday after the webinar. It's just there. You can read it on the day. You can read it a week later. You can read it every day until the next webinar. It's really, I mean, the course material is there. available, and how you engage with it and how much time you spend on it is entirely up to you. I mean, if you want timings, I suppose the minimum that you could spend would be your 3 hours on the webinar. However long you want to spend on the hub post, but let's say, for argument's sake, an hour just reading and reflecting, and there's usually links to other reading material that you can go to. So let's just say an hour for the hub post, although you could read through it in 5 minutes. They're very short postings. And then assignments, however long you want to spend on assignments. But what I have found is that I mean, as an example, I was out at an event for work today and it took me an hour to drive back. So I was driving through the lovely West Sussex countryside. And the entire journey, really, I was reflecting on the latest assignment, future ministry. You know, there's a lovely reading list that the reading list is presented to us. You can read all of it or none of it. It's entirely up to us. So I find myself spending a lot of time contemplating and reflecting throughout my day, which I suppose is time spent on the course, but it's not expected of us. It's not pushed in any way, but it's just a natural consequence, I think, of the training. You know, reading, spiritual practice, reflection, journaling, writing. You know, I like writing. I write poetry to spirit. I can spend hours on that, but that's my choice. It's not expected of me. So this is what I'm trying to say. You know, there's a minimum requirement, but I think you can't help but devote, and it is a devotion, devote very sacred spiritual time to expanding on what the training offers.
Maddie, do you mind if I just add something really quick as well to that?
No, yeah,
just
please
have
do.
two
Thank you,
things I
Amanda.
forgot to mention. I just want to mention really quickly. One thing that I did underestimate before I started the course, I just wanted to point it out because I wish I had known beforehand, is that you do need to just make sure that you've got a little bit of extra time to meet up with your study groups every now and then as well, because those do need to happen. You can be quite flexible with those with your group, though. You can do, you know, I think it's something like for each gateway, you're expected to meet for, you know, maybe 3 hours in total, tops. But you could probably, you know, get away with breaking that into chunks, or, but it's just something to keep in mind. And, you know, you can schedule that whenever works for you. And people have lots of different schedules. So you can always find something that works, different time zones as well sometimes. So you can kind of make sure that you're placed with people that you know, you can work with timing wise. The other two things is that I don't want to single you out, Sarah, but I noticed you have a child, and one thing that happened for me is that my son's bedtime changed over the course of 2 years, and our webinar sort of started around the time that he goes to bed. And so I just wanted to say one thing that helped me navigate that when my husband couldn't put him to bed was I put headphones in sometimes when I was, you know, he was falling asleep and I was sitting with him, and I could still hear the webinar, and I could kind of pop in and pop out. You know, and sometimes things happen and you need to run away for a minute. It's very much allowed, you know, and everyone's very supportive of that. You know, there's other people in our cohort who have kids that step out sometimes and come in, and they're very respect. They have a lot of respect as well for not having, you know, kids be recorded on camera and things like that. So that's good. And the last thing that I want to say as well is that when I did have to miss a webinar, my cohort has been fantastic with helping me out with sharing notes. People are generally very supportive, I've found, of sharing their notes, and without even prompting as well, just people kind of saying this is what happened in the webinar, and or meeting to discuss. So there's a lot of support for if you do miss out. I just wanted to add that.
And one more thing on that note of support also, which I forgot to mention, which is expected of us as well, is one-to-ones with our tutors. So that is time that you have to find as well. The one-to-ones, I think, if I remember, you're going to have to help me out, fellow Aspens. Was it once a month in Gateway 1? Was it once a month? Or was it
Yeah, one
was it
hour
once a month?
per gateway, I think.
1 hour per gateway, was it? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you both. Yes, it's normally kind of one every 4 to 6 weeks for the one-to-ones. Thank you both. And Denise, I've got your name popped down. Is there anything you want to add? Yeah, please do.
Yeah, just very quickly, really. For me, it's a bit different. So it varies from week to week for me, because of my own commitments, which have a huge impact on how much time I can spend on the course. There is the 3 hours every Wednesday, unless it's a break for any reason. But on a typical week, as well as the 3 hours on a Wednesday evening, I try to commit at least that again into reading, revision, preparation for the coming week, etc. Whether it's study group meetings, buddy group meetings, one-to-ones. It's very organic for me though. So I give it more time when I can and less time when I need to. And if I feel like I've fallen behind, I've always managed to catch up. So do commit to your 3 hours on a Wednesday night. Please do, because it's invaluable. I've missed a couple with bereavements and ill health on my own part. I'm normally disgustingly healthy, but I've just been a wee bit unlucky. But do commit your Wednesday evenings. You'll be all the better for it. And anything you do miss, whether it's study groups or extra study time, you can catch up. I am my own hardest critic, so you can definitely catch up. You really will be all the better for it.
What kind of career or ministry path do you envision for yourself, and how is the training helping you move toward that vision?
Thank you, Maddy. Well, I think I said in the introduction, I'm currently a civil celebrant. I've been working as a civil celebrant in Scotland for just over 2 years. I work in my local community conducting baby namings, wedding celebrations, vow renewals and funeral services using both non-religious and religious templates. My OneSpirit course in Scotland, and after a few more formal / legal loops, will give me the ability and legal credentials to conduct legal weddings in Scotland. This is my ultimate goal, to increase my reach as a celebrant and provide a truly bespoke service for my client base. So at the moment, people ask me about weddings, and I desperately want to do that for them, but I can't do it legally until I'm ordained. And there are a few legal loops that we have to jump through, myself and Amanda, being my fellow Scottish student. There's some courses that we need to attend in person, and you've absolutely got to go on them. And then you've got to shadow some existing interfaith ministers from OneSpirit, and there's a membership to a legal body that we've got to be a member of. But I am so looking forward to doing this. I have had so many inquiries about doing legal weddings that I feel it's my true calling and I'm really, really excited about doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. And Caroline, I think you were going to share on this question as well.
Yeah, my plans for my future ministry are constantly changing. I think when I started, I was thinking that I would love to get into hospital or hospice chaplaincy. I still would like to do that, but I've sort of developed on from that a little bit my current thinking came out of, in the summer, we had some summer assignments to do. One of the assignments was just before the summer, was a life share with my fellow students. We were put into small groups of 3 and we all had to share the story of our life, which was a really deep, very profound assignment, very sacred. But my thinking changed a lot out of that assignment, and I think every time we do an assignment, my thinking changes, and I find areas of myself that were previously unexplored. So it's, you know, it's almost like a flower unfolding. You learn so much about yourself. But my current, I feel that I'm being drawn down a path of victim support. I'm very much drawn to this world of supporting the vulnerable, supporting people in their possibly some of the worst moments of their life, helping them through that, and also exploring how there's deep healing in spiritual practice. I've got this, I haven't got anything solidified, but I've got this free floating idea of bringing spiritual practice into the service of healing and recovery. And I think my calling is leading me into the support of women and girls who have been raped or sexually abused. That's where I currently am. It may change, but certainly this course, this training it seems to be constantly opening up new doors for me and new opportunities that I walk through, and I find myself in a different way of thinking, a different energetic field, I suppose. And I think that is true of many of my course mates. I think how they felt that what they were going to end up doing at the end of this course has changed over the evolution of the training. Not for Denise and not for Hala, but because you kind of knew, didn't you, what you were already doing, what you were doing. But it changes, doesn't it, as the course goes on? Definitely.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. And I think, yeah, what you've just kind of said at the end there sums it up beautifully. Of it does change, and some people come in kind of already knowing what it is that they want to do at the end of the training. Others don't, and those that do come in that do know, it shifts and changes, and sometimes it doesn't. So thank you for that, Caroline. And I'm just going to very briefly pick up on kind of something that's going on in the chat box, so I can see that it's sort of been handled by our wonderful students, but just to, in case anybody's missed it, the webinars do run from 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. on a Wednesday evening, and they are kind of experiential and interactive with breakout spaces and that kind of thing. So just in case anybody missed that conversation in the chat. Can you describe how the spiritual accompaniment element of the training is relevant to social workers, therapists, and person-centered professionals specifically?
Yeah, so I trained in person-centered counselling, and I do one-to-one sound healing with the voice. And I found I didn't love counselling in the end, but spiritual accompaniment opened me up to a whole new way of being. It's, for me, it feels so much more powerful and beautiful than counselling. It doesn't have the same purpose as counselling, but the qualities of spiritual accompaniment could be used in a counselling context. Especially transpersonal counselling. So I did a master's degree in transpersonal psychology, and that is the psychology of spiritual and religious experiences. And as a transpersonal therapist, I could bring spirituality into a healing or counseling session. The spiritual accompaniment is actually about supporting someone in their spiritual journey, holding a sacred space for them to explore their own spiritual development. So it's not a place to bring emotional trauma or pain like it might be in counseling or therapy. It's purely about your relationship with the divine and your concept of what that is. And I think being able to sit in a sacred space in the presence of the divine, which is what we do in spiritual accompaniment, and trusting the process and handing the process over and being really focused on the client who's come for spiritual accompaniment, letting them and their relationship with the divine lead the process. Again, it's you're out of the way. You're allowing spirit to do the work along with the needs of the person who's in the space with you. And it's the most beautiful, soulful, heart-centered experience. I'd never come across spiritual accompaniment or even heard of it before doing this course. And I knew straight away, as soon as I encountered the experience, that this is something I want to make a major part of my ministry. And I think having that experience will bring a certain quality of soulfulness and presence to all the work that you do with clients in other settings as well. I think it's really transformative. I think it's like I said, very beautiful. I think it's relevant to anybody that supports others. And it is people-centered. So we can't always speak about people's spiritual life in every context. As a social worker or other kinds of therapists, you might not be able to, but the fact that you are in that space yourself, holding a sacred space and being present with your own connection to the divine in that context will bring so much more into the relationship and into the exchange and the therapeutic relationship, without ever having to mention anything about it. Just your presence is different in that space. And I think in that way it makes a huge difference. And I don't know if any of you others wanted to come in on that as well, but that's what it feels like to me.
Thank you, Hara. Thank you. I'm just waiting to see if any of our other students are waving at me if they wanted to add anything in. But don't worry, if not, we can move to the next question. Okay. Okay, so the next question then is, given the emphasis on relationship, how do you mitigate for the lack of in-person connection in the online version of the training? So our Aspen path is a fully online delivery of our training, our first kind of intentional online, fully online offering of the Interfaith training, and the Cherry Tree path will be following a similar suit, being predominantly online. So Caroline, over to you for this one.
Well, I will admit that I had deep reservations about ever connecting with anybody on an online course. I really was very skeptical about that, and I have proven myself wrong. I don't know how it happens. It's just some kind of magical process. But we call our groups our square circle, and we're drawn in at the beginning of every webinar. We open up sacred space. We light candles, we light incense, we share, we connect, and we really do. I mean, I don't know if the others want to jump in here. I can't explain it. I would never have believed it if I hadn't experienced it myself. All I can say is I feel so connected and such love for the people that I've. The training is a journey. We all start where we start. You know, I remember those first couple of sessions and we were all a little bit awkward and we didn't really know what to say to each other. But, you know, over time and in a relatively short time, we were friends and we love each other and we support each other and we cheer each other on and we commiserate with each other when there are problems. We share so much, we share so deeply, very profoundly. And like I say, I never thought it would happen. I really kind of poo-pooed that at the beginning. I just thought, I think I even verbalized it embarrassingly. I think I said in one of my one-to-ones with my tutor, I'm never going to make friends with people on this course. How can we? It's not going to happen. I'm never going to connect. And then I did. So if I can do it, anyone can do it, because my heart just feels so connected to my fellow students. They're my friends and I love them, and I'm deeply grateful that I have met these wonderful characters that I've shared this journey with. I'll start crying now.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. Hara, I've also got you down for this one, if there's anything you wanted to add.
Yeah. It's as a healer, I know that we can connect to people outside of time and space, outside of the room. I do distant healing for people in other countries, and I can tune into their energy field and feel their presence and pick up where they're out of balance. And it's like that. We can sense one another, we feel one another's hearts, we sense one another's souls. There's such a beauty, and it's like when you meet in person on a course, you won't necessarily vibe with everyone to the same level. Some people I've just fallen in love with, and I just so desperately want to meet some of you in person so I can hug you. Some people I haven't vibed with quite as much, but there's some people that every time I see them, like you say, I just feel like I've fallen in love with. And there is such a deep sense of support and community. And Annie says it a lot, doesn't she? There's so much love in this space. There's so much love in this circle. You can just feel it. And everyone who comes into it as a guest tutor, for example, says there's so much love in this space. You can just feel it. And it is beyond my expectations too. So yeah, it doesn't take anything from it for me at all, not being in person. Just saves an awful lot of travel time.
Thank you, Hara. Before we move on to the next question, I'm just going to again just sort of pick up on something going on in the chat space. So the Wednesday webinars, they continue across the 2 years, but there are breaks between them. So the webinars will run in kind of roughly a 5-week block. Sometimes they might be 6 weeks. And that block is called a gateway. So I think, like Denise has said, it's essentially like a term. Those are our gateways, and there's always a break between each gateway, with a longer break over the winter period in the Northern Hemisphere and over the Northern Hemisphere summer period. There's also a break there as well, a longer break. So this one is, how does the training support people who are still figuring out their own spiritual path, or who identify as spiritual but not religious? And Amanda, over to you for this one.
Thanks, Maddy. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I would say there are a lot of people in this course who would consider themselves spiritual but not religious. And I feel like, and I was one of them as well, and I feel like this course has been incredibly supportive of that journey. I would also say there are a lot of people in our cohort anyway that come with, I mean, everyone comes with such a varied background, religious, non-religious, religious before, not now, or just changing their religion over time. There's just such a variety, and I would say that is one strength of this course, is exposure to so many different ways of being spiritual, and it's very supportive of that. I would say that the curriculum is very supportive of encouraging you to embark on that journey and to really deepen into that. And the assignments are all about that, just figuring out what's your connection to spirit and how can you celebrate that. And I think I came into this course really wanting to explore how to integrate my spirituality more with my everyday life, especially given the changes in my context. And I would say, you know, ironically, I think, you know, through the wonder of spiritual accompaniment, like Kara was sharing earlier, I actually came to realize that what I'm learning on this course is how to just celebrate and be with and accept mystery, and just the sort of joy of engaging with the divine in that way, and that there is no right or wrong answer, and yet there's so many beautiful ways to learn from, whether that's religious or not. And our chair Annie has a lovely way of describing that. She calls it holy envy, and I've learned a lot from that as well. And if I think, you know, there's some lovely things to read about that, and I'd love to share more, but I'll keep it short, so because we've only got 5 minutes. So
What if I don't know what my ministry is, or I have an idea, but I'm struggling to make it real? Can the training help with that, Caroline?
In a very short answer, absolutely. Yeah, I think so many of us, and I include myself in this, my idea of how I'm going to, even my ideas of ministry have changed. You know, the world needs light. The world is in so much need of light and love and connection, and just spiritual connection and connection with each other. And that's what this training is about. And I think however your ministry unfolds, this training course will help you discover your own light and then give you the tools to bring that light into the world. And that is ministry, whether you're getting paid for it or not, it doesn't matter. I think people's ministry changes over time. And certainly if you are feeling that you don't know or you haven't really got an idea, it doesn't matter. You will find your way, and the training course will support you to do that. But I think really, if you just think of ministry as finding your light and bringing it to the world, then there is your ministry. Nice short answer. Is that okay?
It's a beautiful answer. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to very quickly pick up on something on chaplaincy before we kind of wrap up, as this is a question that came in a couple of times in sort of different forms. So just to sort of share, and I can share a little bit more in the email as well, that for individuals that are interested in kind of exploring the chaplaincy avenue, we do have ministers that are in kind of paid and volunteer roles within the chaplaincy space in sort of different areas. What we have found is that there are and can be barriers to entry. And so what we have put together is a special interest group. So we have a chaplaincy special interest group made up of our wonderful students and ministers that work in the chaplaincy field. And they are working really, really hard behind the scenes to make connections with external bodies, including the NHS, so that we can become more recognised and the OneSpirit Interfaith minister can be more recognised in those spaces. And we're sort of working with them to develop any additional training that we might need to support ministers wanting to go down that route. So I just wanted to very briefly, if I can get my words out, very briefly touch on that, as it was a question that came in a few times. And I think we've done really well for time there. So we've got sort of 3 minutes before we close, and I just want to take this opportunity before I hand over to Kim to close our space to say a massive thank you to our wonderful students for giving us their time this evening and sharing so deeply and so beautifully about their experiences. Thank you to you all.